News 13's Matthew Petrillo found that the DMV never received paperwork regarding a DUI stop, and that's something that would have suspended Sellers' driver's license. New tonight at 11, Matt tells you what Dillon officials say may have happened to that paperwork.
You're in the squad car of Myrtle Beach Police. An officer gives a woman a sobriety test after she crashed her car into a pole. She later blows into a breathalyzer and fails. Under South Carolina state law, if a person's blood alcohol level is more than 0.08%, or if the driver refuses the breathalyzer, the Department of Motor Vehicles must suspend the person's driver's license for at least 30 days. For that suspension to take place, police fill out a one-page form called the Implied Consent Form and send it off to the Department of Motor Vehicles in Columbia. Police departments use this same form across the state.
That is a form that is filled out when someone is arrested for DUI.
Captain David Lane is a Dillon City police officer familiar with implied consent forms. He says once the DMV processes the form, the suspension is added to the driver's history. That suspension takes effect even if the DUI is dropped. But News 13 discovered the implied consent form never made its way to the DMV for this man, Vontre Sellers. According to a Dillon City police report, Sellers crashed his car into a ditch in June 2013. The police report says Sellers' vehicle smelled strong of alcohol beverages. He told police he drank a fifth of liquor and 4 half pints, and during the sobriety test, missed every other heel to toe, repeatedly stepped offline, and raised his arms from side to side. The officer charged Sellers with refusal to blow into a breathalyzer, giving him a DUI. This ticket shows that DUI was later dropped to reckless driving. Still, state law says his license should have automatically been suspended, so long as Dillon Police got that implied consent form to the DMV. But Sellers' driving record, obtained by News 13 after a Freedom of Information Act request, does not show a suspension from the reckless driving charge. The DMV says it never received the implied consent form.
Our office says that they sent those documents off.
So what happened? Well, you may not believe the excuse Dillon City officials are using. They blame the postman.
I mean, it could have been misplaced, it could have been lost in the mail system. Who knows? Mail is lost on a daily basis, I think.
We asked the DMV if they heard about implied consent forms getting lost. In a statement, they told us the South Carolina Department of Motor Vehicles has no cases of missing implied consent forms. That is until our investigation uncovered Sellers' form somehow disappeared.
I've never known of a law enforcement agency to lose the implied consent form.
Chevron Scott has worked in the field for more than 2 decades.
That's pretty extraordinary.
Dillon Police could fill out another form and serve it to Sellers to issue the suspension. But what did they do after we told them? You're about to find out. Nothing.
That's not possible. Once the court case is heard, then, I mean, it's basically something that's done and over with.
Dillon Police say they won't fill out a new form, and even after we told them about Sellers' mysteriously missing form, they also won't keep any copies of those forms.
We never have, it's my understanding, that we will continue not to keep copies after the case has been processed.
For Sellers, though, it's as if the incident never happened. In Dillon, Matt Petrillo, News 13.
Also, News 13 attempted to contact.
Last week, a News 13 investigation found a hole in the Dillon City Police Department's policies. We found police lost the paperwork of a DUI stop that would have suspended the license of one of its employees at the time. News 13's Matt Petrillo started asking questions about the missing paperwork, and tonight he joins us live in Dillon where he's bringing you answers. Matt.
Nicole, this is Vontre Sellers' driving record. We found his license was never suspended for that DUI, even though state law says it should have had an automatic 6-month suspension for refusing to blow into that breathalyzer. So when we asked the DMV what happened, they told us they never received the paperwork from the Dillon Police Department. When we asked Dillon officials what happened, they said, we don't know. It may have been lost in the mail. But after seeing our story, Dillon's mayor called News 13 saying that answer isn't good enough. He says they're changing procedures so this doesn't happen again.
What if another accident would have occurred when he was impaired or somebody injured? And really, that's, the city put the whole situation in a bad light, and it could have been a lot worse even.
When we asked Dillon officials last week if there was anything they could do, they told us they really can't because the case is closed. But that's actually not true. They could just refill out the paperwork for that suspension. Coming up on News 13 at 6 o'clock, find out whether or not they're taking action. For now, though, reporting live in Dillon, Matt Petrillo, News 13.
News 13's Matthew Petrillo investigates why law enforcement has not charged sellers for driving with that suspended license.
I want to work here because I love what I'm doing, but the only way it's going to work is if everybody here supports me.
Latta Parks and Rec Director Vontre Sellers gave an emotional speech at a Latta Town meeting last month, pleading to council to put their trust in him and his work after we aired a story about him driving under a suspended license.
I've made mistakes in the past, and I admit that. But I'm trying my best to do everything I can to make sure this place is successful, but it won't be successful until everybody here believes in me.
1 month later, council yet again has questions about Sellers' driving record. A News 13 investigation found Sellers has since had another suspension. According to the South Carolina Department of Motor Vehicles, it's been suspended on and off since November 2013. First after he pled guilty to reckless driving, then after he failed to pay his property taxes. But that didn't stop him from getting behind the wheel. Our cameras caught Vontre Sellers driving a Latta Town vehicle and even parking it just across the street from the Latta Police Station. The DMV says Sellers should not have been driving when our cameras captured him parking a Latta Town van in front of the police department last week, or when he drove home that night in his personal vehicle, or when he saw us in daylight film him back in February as he jumped into his car and drove off, our cameras rolling.
The suspension began in November and it ended today.
When we told Latta Mayor Earl Bullard, he didn't take the allegations seriously.
Quite frankly, I wouldn't believe you if you told me it was raining outside unless I walked outside and looked.
Latta Police and Town Council didn't know about Sellers' most recent license suspension until I told them Monday, because they say Mayor Bullard had told them otherwise. In Latta, Matt Petrillo, News 13.
Because of Matt's investigation, the 4th Circuit Solicitor's Office now investigates whether Sellers should face charges from last week for driving with a suspended license. Meanwhile, Sellers faces another driving under suspended license charge from February. We'll continue to keep you covered.